Welcome back. We have been looking at Christmas through the decades, and we are moving into the 1980s this weekend. So I thought we would start not by looking at Christmas of the 1980s, but by some of the Christmas spectacles that came out of the 80s. And the one we are going to take a look at today is massive amounts of Christmas lights. So, when we come back, I'm sure many of you will recognize this house. Yes, this is from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. This is when Clark Griswold amuses and impresses his family and annoys his neighbors by really going overboard with the Christmas lights. And that was, in fact, the inspiration for this video, going overboard with the Christmas lights, but in a good way. So I thought we would start with the La Salette Shrine, and that is in North Attleboro, Massachusetts, just over the line from Rhode Island, and it is a Christmas spectacular. So let's take a look. The La Salette Shrine is dedicated to the Virgin Mary, who appeared in a place in France called La Salette to a couple of children, which I guess is pretty typical of these apparitions. And consequently, we are going to see some religious themes in the La Salette Shrine. And I decided to start off with some close-up images before we back out and take a look at the big picture, because this shrine occupies several acres, and they have been lighting it since the 1950s, but it really turned into the extravaganza you are about to see in the 1980s. When technology improved Christmas lighting, when energy prices made using that much electricity feasible, and when the shrine became sufficiently well known to attract a number of tourists. Now, people go through this shrine, this wonderfully decorated several-acre wonderland, really. And they go through in huge quantities. I have friends who live in the area, and they simply cannot get their cars out of their driveway when Christmas approaches. So let's take a look at the Christmas images. Now, here we have a creche or a nativity scene, and notice the predominant color in this is blue. That's the color that is jumping out at us. You will see a lot of blue in these images. In part, I believe it is because blue is a color traditionally associated with images of the Virgin Mary dating back to the Middle Ages, when paints were made from minerals. And the mineral they used for blue was the very expensive lapis lazuli, which is why it was largely reserved for paintings of the Madonna and the various saints. But blue sort of became Mary's color. We will see a lot more. This image, as you can see, is Jesus looking at the heavens, and it's framed with a wonderful fretwork design, very subtly lit. it's red and green, but the red is softened to a pink. The green is soft, and we have the candles around it. And, of course, smaller statues of angels. The candles are somewhere between a religious and a secular design. The poinsettia is clearly not religious, but the candles, maybe, maybe not. And here we have another statue. We are facing the back of that statue, so I really can't tell you who this is. Once again, the statue is framed, this time in this sort of crown of lights. And we have stars, and notice on the right-hand side, we have this blue band of light. We are going to see this in some future pictures because it's far more impressive than this small edge piece you see here. Here we are stepping back, taking a look at some more of the lighted images. And keep in mind, this goes on for acres. I couldn't show you the whole thing if I wanted to. It would just be photo after photo after photo because it really is very, very impressive. So let's take a look at this. Again, we're stepping back a little. You can see more of the lights. And in the background, you can see some of the religious themes and images. Remember, this is property owned by the Roman Catholic Church. This is a religious shrine. So consequently, we are going to see lots of religious images. Now this next one, here is that blue band as you see. It's actually a circular hedge around a large statue, and it's just lit to within an inch of its little life. And of course, in the background, you can see more lights. And if you look beyond the lights along the eaves of this building, it gives you an idea of how far this shrine goes. So here is another image, multicolored lights, and it's brilliant. And again, as I say, this is just a portion of the entire shrine, which is just acres of garden lit for Christmas. Here is a nice picture taken from a distance, and because the lights are reflecting in the water, which, by the way, you are going to notice in many of the pictures I'm going to show you, you sort of get a double whammy from the lights and the color. And you're starting to get an idea in this picture of just how expansive the display is. Here again, we have the hedge that's lit in blue. We have other hedges and all of these images, stuff hanging from the trees. And by the way, the pictures I am showing you are not all contemporary pictures. Some of these pictures were taken from newspaper accounts of the shrine. The local newspapers go there every year and snap a bunch of pictures. It's kind of a thing. And some of these pictures go back decades. So in some ways, it's sort of the evolution. However, because the pictures are recycled, pictures from the 1980s, the 1990s will show up today in stories about the shrine. So it's hard to do a true evolution, but you do get some sense of it. Now, this is interesting. You can actually take a little tour bus around the entire shrine. By the way, for anybody planning to go there, I would absolutely suggest this, because the tour bus drivers have a fixed route that takes you through the entire maze of this shrine so that you don't miss anything. And this is my favorite image from the shrine. If you look directly ahead and you see the group of people, you can get some sense of how big these lighting displays are. And that's something I don't think previous photos really conveyed. But what we have here is the Jewish Star of David, the Muslim crescent moon and star, and the Christian cross. And I have to say, for a Catholic shrine, that is just so open-minded. And I love this picture because of it. So let's take a look at some other displays. We're going to start with the Festival of Lights, which is what they call it, at the Washington, DC Mormon Temple, as you can see from the words there. Yes, I spell it right out for you. Well, the Washington, D.C. Mormon Temple is not in Washington. It's in Kensington, Maryland. And this is another of these Christmas holiday shrines, if you will, that I have seen myself. So I know how impressive this is. The Mormon Temple in Kensington, they refer to it as the Washington Temple, is on several acres of ground. Beautiful, beautiful gardens. It's gorgeous year-round. It's just spectacular when it comes to Christmas time. And they light it up, and people are just welcome to wander through. Same thing with La Salette. People just drive through. There's no admission charged. It's just something that is available to the community as a Christmas wishes, I guess. What we're looking at here is the DC Mormon Temple and how you go through. They have a network of roads to get you all around the temple grounds, which are extensive, as I said. But at Christmas time, they block off the road to create a path that goes through the entire gardens so you get a chance to see everything. And believe me, everything is worth seeing. This is another image from Washington, and what you see here, and this is something I wanted to explain, in addition to the lights, which in areas like this are mostly clear or what we would think of as white lights, they have spotlights in the ground in different colors, very much like we saw with those 1950s silver Christmas trees, and they will be shining different colors up into the trees. Now, I don't know if they have ever played around with color changing lights the way they did in the 50s with those silver trees, because when I have been there, it's always been static. You know, this red bush in the front, for example, will be red all the time. Still, it's extremely impressive, but that's what creates this beautiful iridescent light show. Now, this is obviously people looking at the light display, but what you see here is a little bit of the scale. And in this particular area, it's fairly low. In some parts of this display, it is just massive. The light on the trees, the lighting will go up 30, 40 feet. It's breathtaking. For me, I have to be honest with you, it was very hard to take it all in visually because there was just so much of it. Now, this is not the Washington, D.C. Mormon Temple. This is the Mormon Temple in Salt Lake City. Now, I'm showing you a number of Mormon temples. They all do these beautiful light shows, but because they're in different parts of the country, you end up seeing some very different stuff. And this in Salt Lake City, Utah, is going to have a lot of similarities to Kensington, Maryland. Roughly northern states with snow, let me put it that way, not states with tropical climates. So we see something a little different here, different types of foliage, different types of trees, all lit to the gills. Again, Salt Lake City, beautifully lit, it's an absolute wonder to behold. And again, you can see people in this scene, so you can start to get a scope of what the overall image is like. And of course, the temple is just lit too. I love this picture because once again, we've got the colored lights reflecting on the wet sidewalk. Absolutely spectacular. And this is not the only one, because I love these images of lights reflected in water. So I got more of them. So we are back to what the folks in Kensington fondly call Oz. I will pick up on that later. This is the DC Temple, and the temple is huge. I have other pictures in which you are really going to see that. But hopefully, looking at the trees dwarfing the temple, you will get some sense of the scope of this show. The trees are huge. They are all lit. It's just lovely. And this is not Maryland. Yeah, I know, we're not in Kansas anymore. This is the temple in Mesa, Arizona. Once again, we see the lights reflected in the water, because, you know, I'm a sucker for that. But totally different environment. Still decked out for Christmas. Now, this is a picture of the temple itself in Arizona, and with the lighting all around it. It's very interesting. Looks rather Greek in its structure to my eye, but I have to say, I love those huge palm trees in the background. I am a sucker for lights reflected in water and palm trees at Christmas. Now, this is in Salt Lake City, and it's indoors. They do some huge concerts every year in their temple. And as a consequence, we get the opportunity to see this. Clearly, this is like a rehearsal for some sort of musical production they are putting on. But that's why I wanted to show you this interior scene. They really do take this very, very seriously. And this is Los Angeles. This is the Mormon temple in Los Angeles. A single spire. It's a very easy temple to spot because of that single spire. And these wonderful lights. In this case, it's just plain white lighting against the green background, because, of course, they are not losing the leaves of their trees. This is also LA. This one, however, is not at Christmas time. Apparently, they just decorate those palm trees year-round. But I did want you to get a chance to see one of the gardens, because the people who live in the vicinity of these temples have the opportunity to go in, look around at the grounds, and you can see the gardens are just beautiful. They are very well kept, absolutely immaculate. And this is the canvas they are working with. So it's part of the reason they come up with such spectacular light shows. And once again, back to Oz, the temple in Kensington, beautiful colors, and the temple itself is just spectacular. And this is the one in Salt Lake City in winter. The upper portion of the turrets are all lit up. It's very beautiful. This just happened to be a really lovely picture. I believe this is one of the very few pictures that were not taken in the evening. And it's nice to see some of these images in daylight. Now, this is the temple in Oakland. I know you were waiting for me to say the temple at Abu Simbel. Yes, there is something wildly Egyptian about this scene, with the palm trees and the water and the brightly lit temple in the background. Very, very impressive. Not what we are used to seeing here in the Northeast. Very different. But of course, this is California Christmas. And here we are back to the Washington, D.C. temple, and this is their visitor center. As I say, the complex just goes on and on. So, back to Oz. This is the Kensington Temple, the DC Temple, as you are approaching from the highway. And this legend Surrender Dorothy, of course, that's why it's nicknamed Oz. People have been doing that for decades. This is one of the first versions. People would just get up and paint this on the overpass. Someone would come in, clean it off. They'd come back. They'd do it again. They put fencing all over the overpass to keep people from doing it. They're still finding ways to do that. I don't know what the Mormon Church's official position is on this, but every Mormon I personally know who has seen this has simply gotten a chuckle out of it. It's not anything that the average workaday Mormon considers disrespectful. They all love it. So, but I don't know what the church's official position is. Nevertheless, I couldn't do anything about that temple without including this. So, let's go back to A Very Griswold Christmas. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation is one of my favorite Christmas movies ever. And, of course, the over-exuberant 80s is just so clear in this picture. All right, that is what I have for you today. I am going to get out of here because if this video gets too long, it's going to take literally many hours to compile because of all the photos. So I am just going to see you all tomorrow. We're going to take a look at a slideshow on the way out and have a terrific day.